So Peter, I didn't see your letter. Can you send it to me sometime you get a chance?
Yeah, I'll try to send it in a little bit or
Okay.
later tonight. Yeah,
Perfect.
I know. I usually would have tagged you in. I think I just started looking for all the counselors, but yeah, I'll definitely send that to you. I sent it to the editor, so I don't know if it will get in time or.
Yeah, it could be sometime this century.
Michael, are you able to get on? And Robert, you need to turn on your video. Mike, did your audio work now on the phone? No?
He's asking me to unmute him, but I can't do that from my end. I can't
Is he
unmute
muted?
somebody. That's
Tell him to hit the *9. Maybe he muted himself. How do you unmute it on the telephone?
Is it
No,
star
*9 raises your hand. *6 unmutes you. Let's see. So I see Michael's,
Still says he's connecting to audio. You don't have a connection for some reason.
but that's on his
Okay,
regular,
okay, yeah.
but on the
There he
attendee.
is.
Oh, there, I think he just came in.
Michael,
I think he just went out.
Yeah.
is that him? 9480?
He's raising his hand, so
Yeah, I keep unmuting him, but for some reason it's not sticking. I don't know why. That's for me. I'm asking the term. It came, it worked and then it
Can you hear
didn't.
me now or not?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Hear you now.
Okay,
I think we
we're
we
good.
got you
Sorry about
live.
that.
No problem. Okay,
Yeah, for some
Well-
reason I can't talk through my laptop. I have no idea
Yeah.
why. So I always have to come in on my phone and do video on my laptop.
Allison, can you turn Rob's camera on? I can't seem to.
No, I can't do anything to his computer.
All right, Rob, you need to
Ask
put
it.
your
I can
camera.
just send him a request to do so.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, we're gonna need to see him for the vote.
Right,
If he can't get on, he can come over here, like 4 houses down the road.
What a neighbor.
Well, I went to his house a couple times ago because I couldn't get mine to work. We're both technically challenged.
so the public will be starting in a minute here. We're just trying to get everybody connected properly.
Allison, I came by the office. Everything was shut down.
Yeah, I
they're out.
guess they lost their fiber optic, so the office closed at 3 tonight. And they're actually not open tomorrow either, Bill was saying.
well, we're not sure. It all depends whether they can get it fixed or not. They're
Wow.
trying to get a company in to fix it. But somebody decided to cut out a loop, work loop or whatever they call it, so you have extra slack in the upper fiber. Somebody didn't like it
Yeah.
hanging in front of their house, is the rumor, so they decided to cut it out. And it's wiped out a bunch of the city network. It's only the city, though, not the city offices, not the public.
All right,
So we
I
have both
guess we're
phones,
gonna
no
have
internet.
to start. I don't know, we'll have to see how we are as far as quorum on different things, but we can keep trying to get Rob on there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 21st, 2022 remote Zoom meeting of the City of Gloucester Zoning Board of Appeals. For the record, the meeting ID number tonight is 820-7577-5369. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law. Consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. All votes taken by the zoning board of appeals will be by roll call vote. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Use either option if you wish to speak. Members of the board present, myself, Joe Parisi, Vice Chair Catherine Schlichty, Secretary Michael Nyman, members Peter Canavo, Lenny Gillenhall, James Gelati, and hopefully still trying to get Rob in, but he's not on yet, but I still declare a quorum present. Our first order of business tonight be the approval of the minutes of the March 31st, 2022 meeting, which was sent out this week. Are there any corrections or omissions?
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move approval of the minutes from March 31st, 2022.
Second that motion.
Made and seconded, roll call.
Ms. Schlichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
I wasn't present.
Mr. Gyllenhaal,
Yes,
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes, minutes are approved. We have one continued hearing, which we'll hear first.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we have Robert Gullo who has his hand up. I just don't know what he wanted to say, if you want to talk to him before the meeting starts, or do you want to not?
yeah, we can at least hear him, see what, if he had a problem.
Allison, can you ask him, let him in, please?
We were talking about Rob, he might have thought we meant him.
May have.
Hello?
Rob, if you, yes.
Yeah, it was exactly that. I heard Rob and I thought you were talking about me. Sorry. So I'm waiting. I can go back in the waiting room.
All right,
Okay,
I know this.
thank you.
pipeline. Okay, the continued hearing, the petition of Anna Gelino seeking a special permit under 2.3.1, section 6, 2 to 3, change of use, and a special permit 4.1.2 to allow a lesser number of off-street parking, to allow the conversion of a 2-family to a 3-family at 21 Wells Street. Attorney Favaz is representing. Now, who's eligible for this hearing?
I watched the tape from the last meeting, so.
Okay,
I don't
I
know.
know Peter's been on each one. Len, you
I listened to the tape on one and was live for the other.
and Kath, so it gives us 4. I know Rob Russell was there, but we don't have him on yet. So we
Look
still
and
have
see if he's
4.
coming down the street.
Is
I
Michael
have-
Nyman on this also? He was here for one of them, I know.
Who
So
was
at
it?
the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, last meeting, I had Mr. Russell, Mr. Gyllenhaal, Mr. Canavo, Ms. Schlichty was absent, Mr. Nyman was absent, and Mr. Gelati was absent. And you were present.
I was present, and Catherine's listened to the missed meeting, so
So it'd be
So
the
it gives us
chair,
a quorum.
Catherine, Canavo, Gyllenhaal.
okay.
So Mr. Nyman has not listened to the tape, is that correct?
I have not.
Thank you. If you allow me, I'll share my screen.
Do we want to wait for Rob so we have a full voting board?
Allison, is it
Um,
possible for you to contact him? I may have booted him off by accident.
Okay.
Joel,
I'll
you
give
have,
him a call.
Joel, you have another hearing a little later. Do you want us to push this a couple?
Yeah,
Why don't we
that's
do
fine, we
that?
can wait.
And then we may have more attendance.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to jump ahead in accommodation because we had to change the meeting so many times. There's only going to be one change to the agenda order. And what we're going to hear now is the petition of Thomas G. Arulio and Matthew Monahan seeking a special permit 2.3.4, subsection 8, change of use, 4.1.2, lesser number of parking spaces and variances for front yard, side yard, rear yard, lot area, and lot coverage to allow change of use at 53 Rocky Neck Avenue. Attorney Ellison represents.
Volume went out, Joe.
There she goes.
Thank you, Mr.
Can't
Chairman.
hear you.
Thank you for accommodating my conflicting hearing. I appreciate that. For the record, Deborah Ellison, Ellison Law Office, 63 Middle Street, Gloucester. The applicants are Thomas Aurelio and Matthew Moynihan. The architect on the project is Jason Gove. The property is at 53 Rocky Neck Avenue, and we're seeking a change in use from gallery space to restaurant and gallery space. There are no cooking facilities, but we've been advised by the building inspector that this is considered a restaurant, and therefore a change of use is required. I would characterize it more as a cafe. Apologize, I took myself off video unintentionally. So I would characterize it more as a cafe than a restaurant. I would share my screen. And can you see that?
Yes,
Okay. So I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with this building. It is, has been in existence since 1875. We are requesting several variances because we are changing the use, and therefore these existing nonconformities need to have a variance. The building exterior has not changed, the footprint has not changed, nothing on the outside of the property has changed. We're seeking a 5,749 square foot variance in lot area, 15.5 feet from the front yard setback, a 10-foot variance from the left yard setback. The right yard setback is conforming, a 10.8-foot variance from the rear yard setback, and a 9.2% variance in lot coverage. We're also seeking a special permit for a lesser number of off-street parking spaces pursuant to zoning ordinance 4.1.2D. 11 parking spaces are required and 0 are being provided. There's no parking on this site, and there's no ability to create parking on this site. So this is the property. It is just this piece, which is an odd shaped piece. The property is now being used exclusively for a gallery space, seeking to add a cafe and to keep the gallery space. So my clients have been working with the Rocky Neck Art Association on the gallery space for quite a few months, and they want to make sure that the gallery meets the needs of the artists in the community. The maximum of 24 seats, 523 square feet of ground floor space will be the cafe. It will be a very light fare, no cooking facilities. There'll be coffee and pastries in the morning, and they have a beer and wine seasonal license, and they'll be serving cheese boards in the evening. So it's a very limited menu, and is not a place that you would expect would draw people there just for the restaurant. There's no outdoor seating, and they do not anticipate more than 20% of the business will be takeout. No exterior changes, as I said, and Tom and Matt are seeking to create a space where people can gather, look at the art, purchase the art that they're going to display in the building. They hope to create a bigger market for the artists and to encourage people to stay longer in Rocky Neck and to visit the other businesses. They've added heat to the building, which will allow it to have a year-round use and allow the artists to display and sell their art throughout the year. And because of the limited menu, it's unlikely the cafe, as I said, will be a destination in and of itself. It's more likely it's going to be a place that you're visiting Rocky Neck, you decide you need a cup of coffee, you're going to sit for a few minutes and have that coffee, or beer and wine later in the afternoon. With regard to the dimensions, the property is in the neighborhood business zone. And this zone allows restaurants without outdoor seating and with less than 20% of takeout as of right under 2.3.4 subsection 8. And it needs to comply with the closest residential zone setbacks, which are R10. And as I said, it's only compliant with the right side yard at 10 feet. And it also is compliant with the height at 23 feet, but we are seeking variances for all of the other dimensions. The variances should be granted because of the substantial hardship due to the unique characteristics of the property. You can see it's a very odd shaped lot, narrow at the beginning with a small triangular piece to the rear. It is also built on stilts, and the rear of the lot drops down to the water. Much of the lot is in the buffer zone, and it was constructed according to the assessors in 1875, which was prior to zoning. And the current encroachments are pre-existing and will not be changing. It would be a significant financial hardship and a near impossibility if the applicant were required to bring this building into compliance with R10 dimensions. The building would have to be torn down, and Rocky Neck would lose a very iconic building. Would be difficult to construct a compliant building without impinging on the buffer zone with the dimensions and shape of this lot. The requested variance, I would suggest to you, may be granted without substantial harm to the public good and do not substantially undercut the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. With regard to the special permit, I would suggest that that should also be granted because the lesser number of spaces serves the intent of the ordinance under 4.1.2. The intent of the ordinance is to ensure that adequate parking is provided when a property is expanded or its use changed. The ordinance recognizes that that may not always be possible, and therefore it provides for a special permit and not a variance. So Rocky Neck is a unique neighborhood. It thrives on its pedestrian traffic. The existing business and the businesses in the neighborhood do not now have access to off-street parking, and there's no ability to create off-street parking. There's a municipal lot at the edge of Rocky Neck that augments the on-street parking. And in season, there is a shuttle service that operates out of the municipal lot that encourages visitors and residents to park there. There's also a water shuttle service that stops at Rocky Neck. And my clients are seeking to have the city have longer shuttle hours for both the water shuttle as well as the parking lot shuttle. So I would suggest requesting the variances for the existing conditions due to the existing conditions and a special permit to reduce the number of required parking spaces. And I'm happy to discuss this further. This is the floor plan. As you can see, there's a significant amount of gallery space. There'll also be display spaces within the seating area. And we think that this would be a perfect use for this building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions any questions on the application at this point by the board?
No.
No.
Okay, we'll take public testimony. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? First up, with a hand raised, Karen Roosterman, I believe.
Yeah.
We could bring her in. Read.
Yep. Yeah, Karen Risterbin, 210 East Main Street. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes,
it's
we
Lisa.
can.
What was the
Can you say
address?
the address
Madam,
again?
Okay,
Want me to go over there?
If you wouldn't mind.
I'm hearing other people. Okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. Karen Risterbin, 210 East Main Street. I am going to speak up in favor of this. We've had reservations about this change of use because it's been a gallery for a very long time. And however, we realize that it's privately owned and that the new owners, Matt and Tom, have built up a level of trust with us in the Rocky Neck Art Colony. I'm on the Emeriti board. I was the president of the Art Colony for 10 years, and they've built up a level of trust with us to assure us that they have the interests of the artists and art sales well in mind as they're going through this conversion and enhancement of this gallery space. So I am in favor of that in the interest of, creating and maintaining positive relationships with the new owners. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
thank you. Next is Kathy Archer.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm Kathy Archer and I live in Beverly, but I am the president of the Rocky Neck Art Colony
What's your
and
address, please?
20 Washington Street in Beverly.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to speak in favor, as president of the art colony. Over the years, we've seen how we've had to pivot every time new owners come in and change the properties that we work from. It's not often that people who come in are thinking of the artists as much as what they're going to get out of it. Matt and Tom have worked from the beginning to try to work with the artists and make us understand that they're there for us and that they want to increase our business and have people come in and have a whole new youthful feeling for the area. And it's something that we visited the space. We see what their vision is, and we know that they're working in our best interests. And so I'd like to say that I'm very much in favor of what they're doing, and I think it will benefit all of the artists in the art colony. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor? Star 9 if you're on a phone. That'll raise your hand. We'll press the raise hand button. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone in opposition, raise your hand, please. Mark Lacy? Can bring him in. Mark, you need to unmute yourself and name and address.
My name is Susan Farman, Mark Lacy's wife. I live at 47 Rocky Neck Avenue, right 2 or 3 doors down from this location that is being discussed tonight. And Matt and Tom sound like great guys. However, I've lived here for a long time and there is no parking. By 10:30 in the morning, the studio restaurant employees have sucked up all the parking from here to Rocky Neck accommodations. There's no parking in the parking lot right now. There's just a few spaces left. We're gonna have another whole restaurant that serves alcohol, when I know for a fact that there's something like if the Mad Fish Grill were in business, it would be close to 300 seats that are allowed to serve alcohol. I mean, this is insanity. And keep piling more and more stuff on Rocky Neck when there's absolutely no place for people to park. And the water shuttle is not run by the city, by the way. It's run by a private individual, and he has another whole job that he wants to get home by 6 o'clock at night. And I'm not comfortable with this. It's crazy to add 11 more parking spaces on the street, to ask for 11 more empty spaces. Sometimes myself, neighbors can't even get into our own driveways. The signs outside in the street right now say no parking on one side for fire hazard. Guess what? They're all filled anyway in the middle of the summer. I mean, what about a disaster like a fire truck getting down here? So there used to be some parking available at the Marine Railways. The Marine Railways no longer provides that parking. And the shuttle that the Gloucester City provides, the little cute trolley, that's not going day and night. And this cafe, it's going to be winter. Oh, it's going to go on 12 months a year. I just don't like it. I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm sorry. And I'm done now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Mike Fady?
Hello,
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Michael Fayette, and I live at 45 Rocky Neck Avenue. Been an owner of property and management of property here on the Neck for more than 30 consecutive years. First thing I want to point out is that no copy of this application was actually in your advertisement. There were 2 copies of the cover letter that was provided, but no copy of the application. Now, in my instance, I have to thank Ms. Eliason because she was kind enough to send me a copy of that application. So the first question I would raise, is this even a proper hearing since there was no public advertisement of the application? That's point one. The second thing is that, and this follows up a little bit on what Sue Furman said, was that things have changed on the Neck over the last 4 years. As she mentioned, the railways does not provide the large number of parking that they used to provide to the restaurants. Their business is doing a lot better, more power to them, and they don't have the space to accommodate any traffic to be parked there. Now, whether someone can strike a deal with them, I don't know. But right now that yard is working very actively, and I don't think they'll be providing the parking places that they used to. Secondly, the new, there's a new marina on Rocky Neck. It's situated, tied up next to the Madfish. It extends beyond some of the other properties in the back. I have some reservations whether it's legal because of the way it's configured, but nonetheless, there's a number of boats there. And the traffic that frequents those boats come here on a regular basis. And it seems like they all have large pickup trucks, but they park on the street. They stay for the whole weekend in the same parking place. And they're a continuum from where their boats are all the way down to the corner here at the street. So there is much more traffic, and it's large traffic that's coming onto the Neck over the last couple of years. In addition to that, the Rudder Restaurant is going to be open again for the first time in 2 years. And everyone wishes them well. And the problem is, though, that if they are successful, as they hope to be, and we all hope they are, that's going to be more traffic than we've seen in the last couple of years in light of these other circumstances that have happened. Moreover, there's new operational people taking over the studio, and they have high hopes for expanding the business there, which will cause additional traffic. So you have 4 consequences that are going to be in this immediate area. It's not just the whole of the Neck, the immediate area. And I think that when you look at the ordinance, I know that Ms. Eliason said it's in her narrative. It's on page 2. It says a special permit for the lesser number of off-street parking spaces should be granted because the lesser number of spaces serves the intent of GZO section 412. Well, the real intent of 412 starts with 411. And it says it's the intention of this ordinance that all new structures, new buildings, and land uses, which this is, a change in use, be provided with sufficient off-street parking spaces to meet the needs of all persons making use of said structures and land uses. That's the purpose of the ordinance. It's not to just create additional traffic or additional spaces. The language in 412 that she cites says that the minimum number of parking spaces shall be provided except as exempted above, and except that the zoning board of appeals may issue a special permit for a lesser number. Upon demonstration by the applicant that such lesser number will serve the intent of these provisions. Now, how is waiving a requirement of 11 parking spaces serving the intent of the ordinance that says the purpose is to provide on-site parking for new services and new uses? I don't understand how the board could be persuaded that that is serving the intent of the ordinance. Another point is that the notion that everyone is entitled to variances. This property was separated from the adjacent property not too long ago. It was a larger lot. It was made into a smaller lot because there was a separate building on it. But that doesn't guarantee it that it gets to get relief from the zoning ordinance. It shouldn't, and it shouldn't in this instance be given that relief. Lastly, let's get real here about what's going to be there, regardless of what the new owner's intent is. And I understand it's chic to say, well, this will be just a cafe. Let's call it a cafe. Let's call it something else. Okay. Someone will come by in the morning and have their coffee. Great. Guess what? It's Gloucester. It's serving alcohol. It's a bar. And the number of people who will be here and flushing in and out is not going to happen. If they're successful, there's going to be a lot of people hanging around and sitting in the 12 spaces at the bar that are intended for their use. And that is not going to promote anything down here in the neck. So what I ask you to do is look at what the real effects of this proposal is. I'm not saying that it can't ever go there, but I think for sake of just, let's take it a little slower. Let's see how it works out this year with the other increases in business on the neck before we start to say, okay, let's put in another restaurant, bar for 24 people. And the other thing is, yes, those are the seats, but anyone who has looked at any of the places that serve alcohol in our town, okay, there's an equal number of people standing up. Is that what we really want down here and what's going to happen? I don't think so. So I ask you to take a long look at this and not approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? I see Matthews raised his hand, but I can't imagine he wants to speak in opposition. So, Attorney Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for rebuttal. I would
Well,
like to.
I'm not done with, but
Oh, I'm
Matthew
sorry.
has his hand raised to speak in opposition. So I'm asking you, do you think that's a good idea?
I don't believe he is speaking in opposition.
Okay, so anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you're on the cell phone, you dial *9. Anyone in opposition? Okay, seeing none, I'll go back to Attorney Ellison for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, with regard to the issue of the advertisement, where the application was missing was from where the city uploads the applications. That's not the advertisement. The legal advertisement was in the paper and the application was filed with the zoning board. Putting them in the cloud, so to speak, is merely an accommodation to the public. But the application was certainly available at the city's offices if anyone was so inclined to see it. And certainly they could have requested it from me, as Attorney Flaherty did, and I provided it immediately. So I don't believe that that's an issue that needs to be discussed. With regard to parking, we have to remember that this has been an ongoing business. And so it's not as if something new is coming in, that there was no activity there at all. There were people coming to this business as part of they're visiting to Rocky Neck, and we expect that that's going to continue. This isn't going to be a bar. It has a beer and wine license. It doesn't have an all liquor license, and it's seasonal. So yes, there is no parking. There's never been parking since this building has been in existence. There hasn't been parking. And we don't believe that it is going to augment the situation or create any worse parking situation than there is in Rocky Neck. The businesses that have been cited by Mr. Faraday are certainly not this business. This is a much lesser use. And as I said, I think it is characterized rightly as a cafe and not as a restaurant use. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. I believe that's all I have.
Okay, questions by the board?
I just have, so the change in use. Right now it's a gallery. Are you asking for it to be changed to a restaurant or a restaurant / gallery?
It's both. The gallery use will stay. And so a portion of it will be used as a cafe restaurant. And because even though it has no cooking facilities, the building inspector has told us that it's considered a restaurant, and that's why it needs the change in use.
So if you were granted this special permit, could they abandon the gallery use and just make it a restaurant?
I think someone could probably always abandon a use, but they may have to come in for a change in use since it is one of the uses is gallery.
So I think that was one thing I was saying. There's a red line on the plan.
Mhm.
Distinguishes the restaurant from the gallery area. And that would be the plan, I believe, we'd stamp and sign as part of the decision. So does that give protection that that space will not be filled in with tables and chairs and it become a bigger restaurant bar?
Yeah,
Without coming back?
They would be limited to the seating that we've asked for, because obviously if they added seats, they would need more parking. So they'd need to come back to you for relief.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Any other questions? And if they were to all of a sudden want to connect to one of the things going on either side to become part of that, an expansion of, say, that restaurant, that would have to come back to us also, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think if there was any sort of expansion of this space into more seats than you're approving for the parking for, they'd have to come back. If there was any sort of connection to those other buildings, physical connection, clearly that would require relief to do that and changes in property lines, et cetera.
So what's upstairs? You didn't mention upstairs. Is that just,
It's storage
Storage?
now. Yes.
that won't be part of this?
No.
Oh.
So the floor plan that we filed, which will be part of what you will approve. And if I can share my screen again to show you that.
Sure.
That's not what I heard.
So this part in red, the reason it's outlined in red is because that's the part that determines how much parking they need as far as square footage. So there's 523 square feet of restaurant space that requires parking. And then you add to it the seats. So if we were to change that and include all of this gallery space as restaurant space, then we'd need additional parking and we'd have to come back to you for that. So it would be, it wouldn't be permissible for us to do that.
Okay. And did I read correctly? It's the licensing board has already given the go-ahead on this?
They have given the beer and wine license, yes.
Okay.
Is it seasonal, you said, or is it year round? I'm sorry.
I thought it was seasonal. Actually, no, my clients corrected me. It's an annual license for beer and wine.
Beer
I
and wine.
apologize.
I have a question for Bill. Bill, why do they have to call it a restaurant? Because of the beer and wine, or just because of serving light food? Is that what it is?
Our definition that's been used in accordance with the ordinances, as soon as you provide a seat for someone to sit down to have a drink or food, it becomes a restaurant. All you need is one seat, and that'll become a
Oh,
restaurant.
really?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Entertain a motion if somebody wants to make one.
Well, I'm ready to have a little discussion, but I'm happy to vote too.
No, go ahead. We can still talk.
I mean, I'll just say my concern is the parking. I mean, Rocky Neck is under, as we all know, intense pressure in the summertime. It hasn't reached its full capacity for already the licensed restaurants down there. The parking lot at the beginning of the neck there's a good number of parking lots, but it's servicing a lot of restaurants in addition to the Gloucester Stage Company, which a lot of people park there when they have performances as well. So while I understand the need to try to make this gallery more inviting, or I personally am concerned about, granting a special permit for no parking for a use that isn't necessarily providing the neighborhood with any other services that it doesn't already have. I mean, there's a lot of restaurants down there. I didn't realize there was also a new marina down there till Mr. Fahey had mentioned that. So it's just a lot. There's no parking down there right now. And I'm a little hesitant to grant a permit to go further intensify the existing, difficulties that the residents down there have to deal with in the summertime. So I don't know how other board members feel, but.
I'm with Catherine on that one as well. I mean, it's already peak season down there, so it's hard to find a spot to park, and there's gonna be adding another restaurant. I'm with Catherine. It's a tough one. It'd be one thing if we were saying, oh, they only have a few spots, but to just omit 11 is kind of a hard sell for me as well.
I'm
Yeah, I
kind
think
of on
the,
the. Go ahead,
Peter?
Michael. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was
Michael?
going to say, I think the cafe and the alcohol in the late afternoon, evening is absolutely going to intensify the use. I think I don't think it's accurate to say that it's really just going to sort of act like it's been. So it's hard to know exactly, but I'm pretty confident it'll intensify the use. So I just feel like it's battle. I'm trying to find the right word. I don't mean to be that it's contentious battle necessarily, but I think it's a battle between, residents like, Michael Faraday and I'm sorry, I missed the other lady's name who spoke, Kathy. But I feel like it's a battle between the residents, and I think this will clearly service the artists. So I don't have any issue with that, but have serious reservations about voting in favor of this.
Mr.
Chairman?
Yes. Was that Len?
Yeah.
Go
Can
ahead.
can we condition occupancy to the number of seats? Because that would cut down on some of the traffic.
I
Yes,
defer to
Mr.
Lou on that.
Chairman, yes, Mr. Chairman, you may put conditions on this special permit if you were willing to grant it.
So there are 12 seats in that schematic thing?
24.
24.
24? Oh, geez. Okay. I'll be quiet.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes.
hearing that the board members have a lot of concerns about the parking, and I'm wondering if I could request a continuance for me to consult with my clients and discuss what they want to do with regard to this, rather than having it vote tonight.
I have no problem with that. If someone wanted to make that motion, we can go. We'll have to go to May 12th. If someone wanted to make that motion.
Joe, close the public hearing or just keep the hearing open?
Well, if they're gonna make a new
Amendment.
sort of, some type of compromise, maybe they're gonna go rent some spaces somewhere, or
Sure,
maybe they're
sure.
gonna come back with a different idea. I think we'll leave it
Keep it
open.
open.
Yeah,
Yep,
so,
okay. Yep.
in fairness to the public.
Sure.
So if we could have a motion on that,
I move
think-
continuance, okay,
I would second it.
I move continuance to, May 12th.
motion made and seconded, continue to May 12. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes, I agree with that.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gigalone, I'm sorry, Gelati, I don't know where that came from.
Yes.
I apologize. Ms. Lichty
Yes,
and Mr. Parisi?
Yes. That's continued to May 12.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Now that we have full attendance, I'll refer back to Attorney Favazza for the continued hearing on 21 Wells Street.
Thank you. So once again, for the record, my name is Joel Favazza. I am an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street in Gloucester. And I'm here on behalf of Anna Galino, the owner of 21 Wells Street. And let me just move this along. As hopefully you will remember, the proposed work is to bring an existing dwelling unit into code compliance and zoning compliance. The unit, as you may remember, was constructed by the client's late father and ex-husband. Most recently, her late brother had been living down there. After he passed, she received notification that the apartment was not actually properly permitted, and she's been working to make it properly permitted so that she can move her mother down into the unit. Currently, her mother lives on the second floor with Anna's adult daughter. So we are in the high density residential district. This is the zoning district where multifamilies are encouraged. Anna has owned this property since 1999. This is the primary residence for her family. This lot is conforming. So that's kind of a rarity in the R5 district. And the structure is conforming, which is another rarity in the R5 district. And the proposed third unit itself will comply with all building health and safety codes. So you go, okay, that's great. Everything's conforming. What are we doing here, right? So as you remember, although the city council is working to make this a by right conversion, we still currently need a special permit to convert from a 2 to a 3 family in the R5 district. And I need a special permit for reduction in parking. Again, this is not that there are not parking spaces, it's that there aren't compliant parking spaces. Once you get to 3 or more residential units on a structure, you get tripped into basically what I call a parking lot style parking requirement. You can't park in the front yard setback. You have to have screening. You have to have certain dimensions. You can't block anybody in. It's a very different. Doesn't feel very residential. It feels like a parking lot. And so although there's spaces on site here, they're not conforming. And so there was concern at the last meeting. At the first meeting, there was concern about navigability in the roadway. And so Ms. Slipke asked for a continuance so that you guys could do a site visit. When we got back at our last meeting that we discussed this, the chair had concerns about parking spaces. Parking space number 1 shown on this diagram is basically on-street parking. This, the nose of the car is over the property line, but otherwise someone just parking on street. And more importantly, parking space number 2, there was question as to whether you can park a parallel car there and not be considered on-street parking. And so we were sent out of here with some homework to confirm that there was sufficient area. And that's what we're here back to report on tonight. So I want you to meet the soccer van. This is my soccer van. It holds 15 people. It is over 6.5 feet wide. It is almost 20 feet long. It is longer than your average 4-door full-size pickup. It is almost 5 feet longer than your average minivan. And the first thing I did was I brought it over to the property and I put the soccer van into space number 1. So there it is. I've put one of the longest vehicles you can drive without a special license short of a moving truck in that space. Obviously, my clients do not own a van this long. Even their work van is smaller than this one, but I wanted to really show the feasibility of what we're proposing here. So I put the soccer van in space 1. Then, to keep it difficult, we decided we'd parallel park the owner's work van, which is a Ford Transit van, into space number 2. And I just have a few still photos of him. You'll note there's a car parked on the other side of the road, so it's not like we cleared the street for this, right? The soccer van is in spot 1, and here the few still photos is the transit van parking in spot 2. Parallel parking, car on the road, soccer van in the first spot. Go around the side, make sure there's clearance. We're not up against the fence. You can open doors, everyone can get out. Go around to the other side. You can see that the tires are off the road. You see the delineation where the paved part of the road breaks into the privately maintained part of the property. And by this tape measure, about 11 feet off of the fence. So then the next thing I wanted to do after we got everything set was I wanted to show that with these cars in place, the neighbor across the street was not going to be impacted. And so we took a minivan and we actually demonstrated. Someone speaking?
No.
So we took my client's minivan and we wanted to show that you could, if you were, parked next door in that White House, you could back out of the driveway and turn around. And I actually have a video for this to show you. And this was done in one take, no rehearsal, and I'm driving the van, so it's not even a car I'm familiar with. So again, that was me. That's not my van. This is not my neighborhood. I didn't practice that. I just pulled in so I would be facing the way someone would if they were backing out of the neighbor's parking space. And I used the third largest vehicle we could find that day. So we had a giant van in space 1, a pretty darn large van in space 2, and a minivan pulling this maneuver to represent what the neighbor would have to do if in fact the soccer van and transit van were both in place as they were on this day. And so this goes back to the request. We are requesting to, take spots 1 and 2, and down in Arcadia, we have spots 3 and 4. Now, 3 and 4 don't count either because they're in the front yard setback on the Arcadia side. So even though they're compliant spaces dimensionally, the fact that they're in the front yard setback means they don't comply either. And so we're asking to say, hey, listen, there's clearly enough room to reasonably park 4 cars in association with this 3-family. Only 3 cars are supposed to be provided, or space for 3 cars is supposed to be provided. We have more than enough out here for that. And so we have the use standards. I think last time we discussed the use is pretty much agreed that this is a good 3-family. I think Mr. Nye was not voting tonight. I can paraphrase for him. He said this is a good unit and a good place for the unit. And then we get to the reduction in parking spaces, which you just had a discussion on. Again, are we actually serving the intent of the parking ordinance by allowing this configuration? And you go, yeah, in the R5 district, we're supposed to have 3 spaces. Clearly there's room for 4. They don't, meet the parking lot style requirements of a 3-family or bigger. And so they don't qualify as official parking spaces, but you're able to kind of condition these to make sure that you get the correct result. And so the relief I'm requesting tonight, again, is a special permit for use to convert from a 2-family to a 3-family, and a special permit for parking. It would be to allow for 0 compliant spaces, which is the baseline relief. And then you would condition that relief for safeguarding that 1, the existing driveways must be maintained. My clients have agreed that only parallel parking in the upper space. We originally said when it snows out, we'll parallel park like we park the the transit van. Now they're saying that'll be the way this space is used, parallel parking all day long, all year long. And as we discussed, there was a fine associated with the fact that the unit was put in without permits, and they're willing to take a condition that they have to pay a $5,000 fine when they pulled their building permit to make that unit correct. So at this point, I will stop the screen share. And I hope, that shows this board that there is, sufficient room out there for my clients or any future owners to reasonably park at least 3 cars, likely 4 cars. And in doing so, we are meeting the purpose of this parking ordinance, even though we can't actually hit the target of compliant parking lot style spaces for this otherwise conforming lot, conforming structure, and code compliant unit. And I'll leave it at that. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Joel. Very excellent presentation. Appreciate it. Any other discussion by the board? We've closed the public hearing, so we were
Could
just
we
trying to
get-
clarify the spaces. I'm
Can we
sorry.
get him to take those same pictures after a snowstorm?
Well, we had pictures in the beginning with the snow.
Actually,
And-
we had a snowstorm right after Joel filed the application. Yeah.
I think,
I received it then.
I mean, the fact that he proved these are on their property, that was my only concern, was that they sort of came into the public easement, but if he's shown that they can fit, I'm convinced myself that it addresses that adequately, and I'd be supportive, so.
Yeah, I would like to see this become a legal 3-family. We haven't focused much on Acadia Street, but that is a problem too down there. That is very tight down there. I'd rather see the applicant take the $5,000 and put it towards improving her parking area on Acadia Street, because she has a side yard. There is land there that she might be able to put. I would feel better if those 2 cars on Acadia Street could actually get off the road, because they hang out into the road too. I don't know what the other board members think, but parking is a lot of times like the one thing I like to see complied with when we're granting variances and whatnot, because it's a problem everywhere. And while it's not too bad, we've been looking at Wells Court. Actually, Wells Court did not concern me as much as Arcadia Street did, right? Because this house is past that house. It's very tight down there as well. So I know this would probably, I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting, and this probably feels like a late, question by a board member at this point, but is there any way that they could, I don't know if we have any latitude to waive fines, but is there any way that they could make those parking spaces on Acadia Street a little bit more compliant so that they're not hanging out into the street down there as well? Because there's a pretty big side yard. They have that retaining wall. And plus there's an area, when you're standing on Acadia Street to the left of the building that looks like a side yard. Is there any way that, or is it too structurally enormous a task? I don't know. I don't know how other members feel.
Respond, or is that for board discussion?
You can answer it, Joel, if you have an answer for that.
Well, I just want to, really quickly just pop this picture back up to show what Mr. City is speaking about. So again, this was a picture I'd taken earlier this winter of a car parked in the Arcadia spaces. And so again, it's hard to tell, there's a line, an annotation line. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about this. So there's a weird line here that's in there. You have this other broken gravel line here. It's really kind of difficult to tell, where the delineation is between private and public, But again, this is a standard size SUV, right? It's not as big as the soccer van. I would absolutely agree that the soccer van would, be hanging out here if we parked that van here. But again, you're looking otherwise at making, my client take this wall here and, basically demolish it, excavate out behind it, move the fencing and push it all in. And I would just, I would hope that this board would, recognize that we're here for relief, seeking relief for a relief board, and that all things being considered, parking in the R5, especially, in this part of the R5, we're doing really, really well for what you find typically in Gloucester. I've certainly been here on other presentations, as I've seen other presentations come past me. This is,
No, I don't really have a problem with that, because that spot on Acadia Street, you could just put one car and have the 3 parkings right there, and you could parallel park that. It's big enough to actually fit 2 cars. So, I mean, if there was a real concern about that sticking out, I think you'd already satisfy the 3 parking spots, and you could parallel park that car and say, hey, we have the 3 spots. We're just, obviously, once you go to a 3-family use, you got to change the shape or like into a parking lot style, which I think is a little ridiculous for an R5 area, because you're never going to find that. So, I mean, for me personally, I think the house, not only is it conforming the lot and the house, and it provides more than 3 parking spots. I made that turn in the snowstorm. I don't really see the problem with this house, in the use of it. I think it's, providing more housing. They're trying to do the right thing. They were fined or, had to stop work or whatever. And now they're just trying to do the right thing, and they're doing all the right steps. And I think some of the technicality of it is kind of screwing it up. And I think for me, it checks off all the boxes, considering it's an R5 district and the size of the house on a dead end street. So, I mean, for me, I think they're doing an exceptional job trying to, provide more housing and do the best they can with what they have without being more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Hey, Joe, am I allowed to speak even though I can't vote or not?
Sure. Yeah, you can weigh in.
Yeah, I would just concur with Peter that they have 3 spots. So I think that, I think it'd be great, Catherine, if they could move the wall, and stuff like that. But I think we're asking at this point for a 4th spot to do that. And I think that's unfair. I think they've really, again, I think they haven't met the exact letter of the law, but I think they've met the standard. And I think that we can provide the relief to sort of legally allow the 3 spots that they actually have. And if they want to crowd a 4th one in there, then I think that's great, when that's necessary. But I think it's unfair to require them to have a 4th spot when they only need 3.
Okay, everybody else, anything else? We ready for motion? Peter, you want to make a motion?
I don't really have my notes, but I'll try.
James? Oh, were you in on it, James, or no? No.
No, the first one, but I missed the second meeting.
Yeah.
I can make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Catherine, go ahead.
On the petition of Anna Galino on 21 Wells Street, seeking a special permit for change in use. We have the 6 factors. I think, Joel, I think we can all agree that it's a needed unit in town. It has financial benefit that's not really hurting the environment in any way. He's addressed the issue of traffic. We're not adding any more traffic. It's an existing space. And we've talked about the parking issue. So I'm going to move approval of the special permit. Do you want to do them separately or?
No, I think you can do one.
Yeah, I'll move approval of the special permit for a change in use from a 2 to a 3-family.
Are you doing them separate? Well,
Yeah,
okay. Motion made on the special permit to convert. Second,
Second.
seconded by Peter. Roll call vote.
Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gyllenhaal,
Yes.
Mr. Russell. You're muted, Mr. Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you
Ms.
hear?
Slickty?
Okay.
Yes,
And Mr. Parisi.
Yes. That's a special permit's approved. Now we'll need a motion on the special permit to allow a lesser number of off-street parking.
I would move approval of a special permit for a lesser number of parking spaces than required at 21 Wellsport. Would actually be granting relief for 3 parking spaces.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, roll call.
Mr. Gyllenhaal.
You may want to add conditions onto this one.
Oh, thank you. I would like to amend my motion to say condition that the parking on Wells Court be parallel. Be
There you go.
parallel park, thank you, to there be parallel parking only on the upper space on Wells Court. And that the existing driveways must be maintained. And that the applicant pay $5,000 time at the time the building permit is applied for. If you will accept, who seconded it? They
Second that,
accepted.
Peter.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Gyllenhaal,
No.
Mr. Russell. I didn't hear you, Mr. Russell.
Yes. Yes.
Yep, I have you. Ms. Slickty,
With reservations, but convinced by my fellow board members, I will vote yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. We've heard our decisions favorable on both. If you could provide a draft, we appreciate it. And Mr. Sanborn, if you could stamp and sign those plans for us. Moving on to our next hearing is the petition of George and Lisa Sarabian seeking a special permit under 1.9 to allow a new addition to the front of house, new roof over existing front entry at 30 Sleepy Hollow Road. Robert Guler, I believe, is presented.
Yes, I am.
Can I ask
you hear me?
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
before you get started, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
It's really a question to Bill Sanborn, I think. And maybe you'll address it as we get to sort of move into this. I don't really understand why there's not a need for a front yard variance.
It's funny, I actually,
I don't- Because there's not an
Bill could
existing
explain it probably
nonconformity on
better.
the
I
front.
think we do need a variance.
I think we do too.
The problem was when we filed this, it was basically confusing to me if you look at, well, maybe we should start the screen share. I don't know if there's, I think it'll explain itself in the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well-
I just, as I was reading the plans, I just looked, and my first thought when I looked at the site plan was, I don't understand why we don't need a front yard variance, because there's not an existing nonconformity on the front.
I agree.
But go ahead, Rob. Yep.
Well, the front of the property, the way we looked at it was Sleepy Hollow Road, which is across the front of the property, which, looking at the plan, is the top. The other section, which is a 20-foot way, Sleepy Hollow, was determined not to actually be Sleepy Hollow, but to be just a right-of-way, not used as a street.
Right, so it's not a corner lot.
Right, so it's not a corner lot, because this, okay, you have this up, so if you look at where it says 20-foot way, Sleepy Hollow,
Yeah.
that is not considered a road. It's an easement for access to the beach or access through there, I believe. But it's not considered the road. The frontage on this property would be Sleepy Hollow Road private, which is at the, above that. That makes sense?
Sure. So what's the setback then?
So I
Setback
believe
is-
this, Go ahead, Bill.
All right, so the setback would go back, this is one of the properties that was part of the 1999 zone change. So the setbacks of this property would be 20 on the front, 10 on the sides. So even if you look at Sleepy Hollow Road, the easement, he's 13 feet away from that. So even if you wanted to consider that a side, well, it'd still be considered a side yard. I guess it wouldn't make the frontage, but it's not considered frontage. It's considered just an easement.
So he's
In the
3 feet
rear-
within his setback.
In the
Just-
rear yard, the rear yard would be not required because it's no more non-conforming than the existing house?
Correct. The
Okay,
existing house is already non-conforming on the rear.
gotcha. Go ahead, Mr. Booth.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make a big deal. I just want to make sure he gets whatever is needed. That's all.
Yep, oh, thank you.
No, in the process, it just got really confusing. That's really what it came down to. As Bill put it so well. So that's basically it. I mean, to start over a bit here, so I'm representing George and Lisa Sarabian at 30 Sleepy Hollow. You probably remember we wrote a small letter about this project that doing the work on the ocean side started becoming too onerous and too costly. So we decided not to do any of the work on the water side and just redo. We actually got approval for the entry, but I'm happy to have it part of the review as well. And we're doing a 30 by 16 foot 8-inch addition on the road side now, or requesting so. We have an existing side yard nonconformity in the 20-foot yard setback, I believe. So we are looking for a special permit for that, for the about 6 feet, I think that we're over, but we're not making it any more non-conforming. And then the front yard setback issue, per what Mr. Sanborn just said.
So actually, it's a rear and a left side,
Correct.
a
I'm
rear,
sorry.
rear and a right side, right, Bill?
What do you mean a rear and a right side?
Well, rear is where you're getting your special permit. I mean, you're extending a nonconformity at the rear,
Yes,
and you
yes,
and you don't need anything on the right side other than
Correct.
the special permit.
correct. It's to alter and expand a non-conforming structure, and you're correct. The
Okay.
rear is where this
Yep.
non-conformity is happening.
Okay. Yep.
All righty. Is that it?
That's about it from me.
All
Unless
righty.
someone has questions.
Questions at this point of the plan or anything?
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
I've been satisfied. Yeah.
Yes, Len.
Apparently, there's been several hearings on this over the years. And I'm
We
wondering, if-
granted variances and whatnot a year ago. And they were asking to withdraw those and replace it with this new special permit.
there was
Modified.
a hearing back at almost 10 years ago in 2012. And I noticed with interest that Mrs. Bergman voted against it. Michael was the only other person there. Can you fill me in at all on what that was about?
No. Sorry, I didn't go back.
Okay, it's a long time ago. It's just, I've never seen one that's been,
If
It's
I
come back
may,
so
I
quick.
think I remember that, believe it or not, I'm showing my age. But I believe at the time, not that I was there, but at the time, they asked for relief to do, this was a new house being built about 10 years ago. And I
Right.
believe there was a neighbor who was concerned, and therefore Miss Bergman voted against it. I think we all knew Miss Bergman was very much about the people, and I think that's what occurred.
and she was always very outspoken.
Yes, she was.
Yes, she was.
And that was a
God rest her
special,
soul.
and that was a special permit that allowed them to demolish and replace what was there at that. time.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No other question. We'll take testimony. Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? Can you take your screen share down, please?
Sure.
I can't see everybody otherwise. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. I remind you, if you're on a phone, you dial *9. In a device or computer, you just hit your raise hand button. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. There'll be no need for rebuttal. Any discussion by the board, or someone wants to make a motion?
I have one question. So we have a special permit that's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds for the March 2021.
Yeah.
How do you void that?
I was hoping you could answer that question because.
You're the lawyer.
Exactly. Because I actually asked around, that's why we wrote the letter at least as part of a package, so the board understood. We got a special permit approval and then we rescinded it, but I haven't a clue on how to separate it from I'll have to figure that out if the board approves.
Maybe we could put a condition in this one that it's, if
That'd be great.
that granted, subject to them not pulling permits to do the previously granted or something like that.
You could exactly just word it, that would be exactly that you would say this special permit would override the previous one and consider that to be voided. And the correct legal language in there would make that so that the other one would now couldn't be used. If the board so to choose, the board could also choose to leave it in place and let them do both. That's up to the board's decision.
Because the previous one was
Add
add
a
rear
rear
deck,
addition.
rear addition with deck and small front addition, which is the entry we're talking about now. I would think, because we're saying it's going to take the place of, we should do that, because the public might have had different opinions if it was going to do both.
Right.
Agreed.
Another option, maybe a cleaner option, maybe, and Catherine, you know better, would be to amend the previous zoning board decision. Maybe then there wouldn't be two conflicting ones out there. This one would show that you amended the previous one. If you were back to do a title search or check on that, I'm not sure which would be better.
Yeah, well,
We'll jump off that bridge when we get there.
yeah, we'll have to think about that. But I agree, we need to address that other special permit that's on record.
I agree.
Okay. Any other discussion by the board, or have a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion. On the petition of George and Lisa Sarabian seeking a special permit to alter, expand an existing non-conforming structure to allow a new addition on the front of the house and a new roof over the existing front entry at 30 Sleepy Hollow Road. While I do think this intensifies the existing rear yard setback nonconformity, I don't think it's substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconformity, in that it's really not encroaching too much on other properties. There's still plenty of room around the house for fire responses or anything like that, and that they have plenty of parking on the property. I would move approval of the special permit.
Madam Vice Chair, you may want to add a variance there.
On the condition, well, I'm gonna take the advice of our building inspector, who says you don't need it. And he's gonna be issuing your permit, so I think it's okay.
Oh, that's fine, whatever.
But I would like to add a condition that, you know, the decision reflect that this special permit granted tonight is an amendment or
Supersede.
avoiding of the prior
Supersede.
special permit granted on March 2021.
I would second that. I like the language of supersede as well. Yeah.
Yes, supersede, thank you.
Motion made and seconded on the special permit. Roll call vote.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yes,
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes, for special permit conditions.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Heard our decision's favorable. Bill, if you would sign and stamp those plans on our behalf, and we'll have to figure out how we're gonna write and amend that decision, I guess. Talk about it.
I'll write it. and
Thank you.
I
consult.
appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good luck, Rob. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you too, Michael.
Our next application is the petition of 125 Winter Street LLC seeking variances for lot area for dwelling unit to allow the division of an existing lot into two separate single-family lots at 105 Wingashiek Road. Attorney Favazza.
Thank you. Screen back up. For the record, my name is Joel Favazza. I am an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street in Gloucester. I am here on behalf of 125 Wingashiek LLC, which is the owner of 105 Wingashiek Road. And this one hopefully will be, there's a little bit of math gymnastics we have to do. It's a little bit of fiction we have to address, but otherwise a fairly basic situation. So what we have here is we are in the R20, which is low medium density residential district. We're out, Wingashiek Road. The LLC has been permitting this lot for some time now, but they just took ownership officially in October of last year. And they've been permitted to construct one large single family home. That's shown here in red. The green rectangle represents the entire lot. And the red shows the house they have an active building permit for. I will say, with the exception of
A ramp.
right? So except for this ramp, so without access to this garage is shown, they have an active building permit on this structure. And as this board may be aware, they received some pretty substantial pushback kind of every step of the way, but got through. And then as the dust kind of settled, it kind of became, why are we pushing so hard this huge house out here? And said, if we can get this cut into two lots, we can just, make houses, two single family houses that are more in keeping, right? And so the problem is that we're out here on Wingashiek Road, and there's a wetland resource area out there that, again, is this weird little fiction on Wingashiek Road, where obviously there's a neighborhood out there, but obviously there's also competing, wetland interests. And so the proposed work is pretty simple. We're just looking to get permission to divide the lot into two, and then construct two single-family dwellings, one on each lot. As you can see, they're much more in keeping with the size and scope of the houses out in the neighborhood. The problem is that even though, ignoring going all the way to low water, which is, a separate issue, just the upland here, it's 90,000 square feet, but the entirety of it is either floodplain or wetland resource area. And when you create a new lot, quote unquote, and dividing this existing lot into two lots creates two new lots, the zoning ordinance only allows 25% of the required minimum lot area to be pulled from wetland resource areas or floodplain. So even though each lot will have physically about 45,000 square feet of lot area, only 5,000 of that counts on each. So technically, our countable lot area is 5,000 square feet, which is 15,000 short of the 20 required. The same kind of fiction goes forward on the lot area per dwelling. You need 10,000 square feet per dwelling unit. Again, you're only able to count 5 of the 45,000 toward this. And so we would need relief on that one also. Per usual, I have the full plan set dialed in. If anyone has any questions about what is being proposed, these houses otherwise conform to height requirements, setback requirements, lot coverage requirements, etc. There's no relief needed for the structures themselves. Again, the issue is, everything that has a brown dot on it is coastal dune, and everything that's green is, I think a buffer zone to additional wetland resource areas. And so that's, this is the Wingashiek area, right? And I can even zoom out and show you that it really is, just this kind of area, right? All these houses, all these lots would have the same exact problem that mine does today if they wanted to move lot lines around, if we're trying to today. So you get into the standard for relief. Is there a hardship here? So if my client was to divide the property as shown without coming here, the lots become unbuildable, because even though they're 45,000 square feet big, and would remain still some of the larger lots out there, this whole wetland calculation knocks them out of eligibility. And so it requires, this expense of you're actually going to derive the value that 90,000 square feet on Winger Sheet Road, is worth. You have to kind of build this large structure that they permitted that we showed at the beginning. And that obviously is kind of creating a lot of animosity in the neighborhood. It's not really, it's creating issues, right? And so you go, well, does this hardship relate to the soil or the topography of the land in question? Well, yeah, it's because this entire land has been designated coastal dune. Even the road, like the paved roadway you drive in on, is coastal dune. It's asphalt, but it's coastal dune if you ask the map, right? And so you can't get there. And then you go, how do you fix this? We would have to truck in, right, 30,000 square feet, of soil. And Mr. Gullah has probably left, but if I went to the Concom and said, hey, I got to throw about 30,000 cubic feet of soil down on each of these lots so I can create 15,000 extra feet of square feet of lot area, his commission would laugh me out of Kairos. They'd say, you're not going to do that. You're going to put this house on stilts and you're going to leave the dunes how they are. And so you go, okay, well, if we grant the relief so we can go with that plan, are we harming the public good, or are we nullifying the intent of the GZO? And I'd say no, because we're still creating double lots, right? We're in the R20 district looking for permission to make 45,000 square foot lots. It also then controls and constrains the size of the homes built on these lots to make them more consistent with neighborhood character, which, as you all know, is one of the stated goals of the GZO itself. It also allows these to fit in with the rest of the homes in the larger neighborhood, and allows us to take an existing single family structure and actually push it back further from the primary dune and elevate the structure from what is there now. So overall, by allowing this division in these smaller houses to be built, you have more of what the zoning ordinance would call for out there. Unfortunately, we just can't check the box of, do we have sufficient lot area? Technically, we don't, because of the topography and soil condition that it's comprised of. So if you were to grant us the relief we're requesting, it would be 15,000 square feet of lot area relief for each lot, and it would be 5,000 square feet of lot area relief per dwelling unit for each lot. And I'll kill the screen share so we can have a conversation, and if you have any questions, I can answer those also.
So, what I see, you're really ending up with two lots that are as big and as conforming than almost anything around it. They're twice as big as some of the houses along that strip. I do have a question. Adequacy of utilities. Are these going to have septic systems that are?
Yes,
get approved?
was actually already approved septic systems on both the proposed lots for the proposed houses.
Great.
So Joel, when you got the last permit for the house you have the permit for now, that didn't need lot area relief because it had 90,000 square feet to work with?
No, it could have had 5,000 square feet. It was pre-existing, right? And so there's a single family on this giant lot. And so you just, altering a pre-existing, structure on a pre-existing lot. This drawing of a lot line creates two quote unquote new lots, and new lots can't use area.
Pre-existing, right.
Old lots can use it.
And would they be limited to becoming two family each?
My clients are willing to take a condition that you can restrict them to single family. Their intention is to build a single family. And again, by being a single family, it would allow, if nothing is done, future owners to convert without exterior changes to a two-family, provided the septic system was able to handle that. It also availed them to the new ADU ordinance. If this board is concerned about either of those eventualities, my clients are planning to construct a single family on each, and we're taking a condition saying that this relief is limiting these lots to single family development. But again, it's competing interests, right? We are trying to create housing units in the city, but we're also trying to, be, sensitive to these ecologically sensitive areas. And so it's up to the board whether that condition was something you would feel is appropriate.
Yeah, I'm not hung up on that. I mean, they're 100 by 450 foot lots, so they certainly would qualify. Any other questions on the presentation before we go to testimony? Okay, we'll open the public hearing and ask anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application to please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in favor? Again, *9 if you're on a phone. Seeing none, we'll go to anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application. Please raise your hand. Kathy Archer is first up.
That's not actually Steve Archer. I'm at my wife's computer.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
we need your name and address for the record, please.
Steve Archer. We're at 103 Wingasheek Beach Road, right next door.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question. Are these houses that you're proposing, are they being proposed to be built on their current grade?
Mm,
My concern is, are you going to be bringing in fill, which would change the height of these houses? These houses are going to dwarf our house, which is, we have a pre-existing condition, so we hug that lot line closest to any other property there. So these houses, you say they're in keeping with the neighborhood. Well, it's 3 or 4 times larger than the house next door, and we've been there since 1960. So we're not happy about what's going on. So getting relief.
Looking at the drawings, I see piers to bring it up to the floodplain, I believe. That'll get addressed in the rebuttal.
I think I can answer Mr. Archer's question. I believe he's concerned about them elevating the lot and then using that to measure the height. Our zoning ordinance for the definition of height says it's taken from the average grade of the lot prior to construction. So even if they were to bring fill in and raise the lot 10 feet, they could not raise the height of the house an extra 10 feet by doing so.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Frank and Susan, oh, wait a minute, I lost you. Frank and Suzanne Kinsey. Remind everybody, give your name and address for the record.
Sure, Frank Kinsey, 111 Wingasheek. I'm the abutter on the other side from the Archers.
Do you have 2 devices on right now? We're getting an echo.
Just a sec, I just need to adjust my volume here because I lost you. A sec. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, thank you. So I have a couple of questions. I'm looking at section 10 of Mass General Laws, which is the permit granting authority for variances. And it says that the variance can be granted if there are circumstances relating to soil condition, shape, or topography of the land that's not generally affecting the zoning district in which it's located. I don't think, are there any soil conditions or topography issues with respect to that property that's different from any others? I don't think there is. I think it's similar to all of the others on Wingasheek Beach. And then the other question associated with that is there's a case out of in the Mass Appeals Court. It's called John Mitchell versus Board of Appeals of Revere, May 2nd, 1989, where they looked at a very similar issue. And they found that that the Board of Appeals did not have the authority to grant a variance in this situation. I'm just going to read from that case. It says the hardship arises solely from the fact that the lot is too small to qualify as a buildable lot under the zoning ordinance or to achieve an exemption under the grandfather clause as applicable to lots created before zoning. In these circumstances, Section 10 gives the Board of Appeal no authority to grant a variance. So I guess my question is, has the Board of Appeals looked at its legal basis to grant a variance for topographic issues that are no different from others on the beach without a specific finding that that is in fact true?
Well, one thing, Wingatesh Beach in and of itself is not a zoning district. So, I mean, you go across the street and up Castle View, which I'd consider in the same zoning district, and those same conditions don't apply. I'm not the end answer. I'm just throwing that out there. But I know the case you meant on the Revere case, but that was to do with a piece of property that was less than 5,000 square feet, I believe. And that whether they had the right to give a variance for lot area when it didn't meet the minimum requirement. Certainly different than this 90,000 square foot lot. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that was a question, I guess. And then what is the hardship that one is granting a variance for here? Because they are able to build a house on their lot. So what's the hardship?
That's the question we need to address.
Yeah, that's what we'll be addressing, determining if there is one.
Okay.
There is no hardship.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Opposition? Nope. Okay, seeing none. Rebuttal, Attorney Fabaza.
Thank you. Real briefly, I will try to address the questions that were posed. So as to the house height, just wanted to bring this up real quick to show the plan that we have. So as you can see, average grade has been calculated at 11.65. And so although the ridge of the roof is 30 feet above that, if you were standing at the garage level, the house would appear to be about 26.5 feet tall. So it won't even feel like a 30-foot tall house for people kind of standing on the front side of it. And it is being built on piers. It's absolutely required that the dune be able to migrate underneath the structure. And then the first level has to be above the floodplain. So just to make sure there's a 30-foot tall building by calculation, in practicality on the front, standing at the garage, it'll feel 26.5 feet tall. Notes here. So again, soil condition of the chair sort of alluded to, the zoning district is the R20 zoning district. You have R20 in Lanesville, you have R20 in East Gloucester, you have R20 in West Gloucester. And except for out here on Wingatesh Road, I don't think you'll find R20 districts with contiguous lots comprised, solely of what's designated coastal dune. So that's, I think, pretty easily points to this, a unique, as far as the R20 district goes, this is a unique soil condition. The legal basis, the challenge that the neighbor brought as far as your ability to grant this variance, I think we're kind of a little bit of apples and oranges, right? First off, this is more of a variance from the definition of lot area. There's physically 45,000 square feet of lot area out there. The definition of what the zoning ordinance calls lot area has this quirk about what kind of land you use to calculate that. And so I think we're not talking about a truly undersized lot, and that distinguishment makes this a separate situation from the case that was being cited by the neighbor. And then as to the question of hardship, I find it funny that the neighbors who themselves have opposed that larger house and continue to oppose that larger house every step of the way would so cavalierly say, well, they can go build that other house. First off, I don't think anyone who spoke tonight can genuinely look you in the face and say they want that other house built, right? I think this is a little cynical. And again, I think the chair noticed, one of the reasons why the building permit issued for all but that ramp is that ramp requires a very minor amount of relief from a setback. And, we know if we come here asking for a variance for that house, it's just going to open my clients up to another avenue of appeal. Permits have been appealed, permits have been opposed every step of the way. So the neighbors themselves have presented themselves as the chief hardship. And again, the other hardship is this is 90,000 square feet of beachfront property, and to say that you have to either build this one large structure to try and get the value out of it, or otherwise really take a haircut as to what this lot should be per our zoning ordinance, which is a 20,000 square foot density, I think in itself is also a hardship. And again, it all derives directly from the fact that the entirety of this area, despite parts of it having houses, despite parts of it having paved roads, is all technically designated coastal dune. And so I think the board has plenty of meat to chew on as far as finding a hardship relating to the conditions of this lot, finding that splitting the lot into two oversized lots with a single family in each is more in keeping with what the zoning ordinance calls for out here than the current situation, which is again a 90,000 square foot lot with one large house on it. And I would again just hope that this board would see to it to grant those two variances for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you put up the picture again of the house that is approved right now? The one
Yeah,
that
1
has a
second.
permit?
Yeah. One second, guys. Sorry about that. There you go.
Yeah, so that red, that's what we approved last year. And there was a big ramp that was going to need to get up to all that elevated garage, as I recall. And that was such an engineering thing that it kind of got held off, and the building itself was approved on its own. Certainly with a lot of different, it was an alter and expand, but as you can all see, it was quite an alter and expand. To be honest with you, if I lived in the neighborhood, I'd much rather see two more in line. This thing's would stand out like a sore thumb as far as the size of it. Look at it next to the blue one. And it's big. I would think you'd rather see two houses that meet all the setbacks. No variances required for setback, frontage, rearage, side. It's meeting everything, which keeps it to a little bit more modest size. Certainly not modest for Wells Street, but modest for Wingashiek Beach. So I just wanted to see that again, just to see the magnitude of it. But thank you. Okay, we've had rebuttal. Any discussion by the board?
I'd listened to the two neighbors, and I listened to Attorney Favaza commenting that they kind of changed positions. Maybe what they wanted was one lot, one house on that lot that was smaller, and maybe that was their objection. So I don't think I would characterize them as all of a sudden taking a different position. In addition, I don't see a hardship. Legally, they don't have the right footage of buildable land by the letter of the law.
So Joel, you still have to go obviously through Concom and everything for these
Yes.
permits.
We're actually suspended in Concom. We wanted to come here, and we've made some traction in Concom. We wanted to come here and make sure that we're going to be able to get the relief necessary. Obviously, Concom is a very similar argument. We have this one house permitted up on the dune, and these are two houses pushed further from the dune. So it's a win on that side also, as far as checking more boxes from a permitting standpoint for the Concom.
Yeah, I like that it's coming forward.
Get through this.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, when you drive out to Winter Street, there are so much construction going on out there. There's so many large homes out there. And I know it's an ecologically fragile area. I leave all those considerations to the Conservation Commission. And considering that, I mean, you're still gonna have 2 1-acre lots, which are larger than most lots out there. I think the structures being proposed are just better structures. They're more in keeping with the other size structures out there. It sounds like we're granting a lot of, like we're granting a variance. We would be granting a variance because you don't have a large enough lot, when in fact you have, each lot is going to be more than double what's the lot size required out there. I mean, I guess the issues are more, ecological issues, and that's kind of Concom's jurisdiction, is to, the impact you're going to have on the coastal zone and the wetlands out there. I do think I understand, Mr. Kinsey's point about, well, what's the hardship? And we always struggle with this. What's the hardship? Because yes, everybody's on a dune on Wingashiek Road, on that stretch of road. And so I guess, if we find that is a hardship, then they all have hardships out there, which I do think we've granted a fair number. Well, hey, we granted a variance out there earlier. No, but that was a special permit. But there are, I think, weighing the, overall intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, which is, someone just pays $4 million for a piece of land, and that's more than 2 acres, and to say you can't make reasonable use of it, virtually the same use all your neighbors are making, actually, I think is not one of the intents of the zoning ordinance. I think this is a better use of the 2 lots, of the 2 parcels of land, and I leave it to Concom to protect the environmental concerns. So I think all in all, it is a hardship that the applicant has.
Catherine, are you saying the way you pay for the land, it determines what you can do with it?
No, I'm not.
It doesn't make any
No.
difference what they paid.
No,
They
but
don't have legally, they don't have buildable land.
one of the purposes of the zoning ordinance is to preserve the value of land. So I'm not saying, if they overpaid for the lot or bought something they didn't get, well, that's too bad for them. But, I do think in looking at a piece of land, looking at everybody else out there and what's being built, is this unreasonable? Should they be burdened with the overlays that are on this lot so that they can't make the use of the land that all their neighbors have made? So
Agreed.
is that really preserving and making the best and highest use of land? I don't think so.
Yeah, I
And
like
to add-
the fact that improve the views and everything too by pulling it back.
And Joel said that the owners would even condition, and if the board needs to find the condition, to ensure that they don't convert to a 2-family or to an ADU. I mean, for me, I'm not trying to look that far down the road, but I mean, they're even willing to go that far to kind of stay consistent with that neighborhood character.
Yeah, I think it's a good project.
Michael, no, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I think it's a good project. I like it more than the first project. To Joe's point earlier, the first project is a massive structure that doesn't keep with, the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, you move 2 or 3 lots to the east, and you got, houses that are going to be larger than the proposed structures, and you move, 4 or 5 lots or 2 or 3 lots to the west, and it's the same thing. So I think dividing this to 2 lots. They're both, to Catherine's point, they're both an acre. Gonna meet the setbacks. I mean, I think it's a great project, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Anything, Michael, or you good?
I like the project.
Alrighty, we'll go to a motion. Catherine,
On the petition, on the petition of 125 Winger Chic LLC seeking variances for lot area and lot area per dwelling unit to allow the division of an existing lot into 2 separate single-family lots at 105 Winger Chic Road. I think that the applicant has demonstrated a hardship, that they have 2.5 acres or 2+ acres of land that has been overlaid with critical watershed or whatever overlaid with some restrictive burdens that don't allow them to make use of any of that lot, except for 5,000 square feet of each lot. I think that is a hardship that is particular to this section of Winger Chic Beach that isn't present throughout the zoning district. So I think they have demonstrated hardship. I would grant them a variance for 15,000 square feet per lot and 5,000 square feet per dwelling unit.
motion made. Michael,
Second,
and seconded to approve 2 variances. Roll call vote.
Mr. Gelati, I don't know where this is coming from tonight, sorry. Mr. Gelati,
Yes, on both.
Ms. Lickby,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. Heard that decision is favorable. Bill, if you'd stamp those plans on our behalf and sign them, and Attorney Favaza, if you could present us with a draft.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Our next hearing is the petition of Jeffrey C. and Janet M. Bridges, seeking a special permit under 3.1.6 to allow section of new fence higher than 6 feet at 31 Southern Road. Mr. Bridges.
Huh.
Are they out there? Yeah, I see them. Mr. Bridges, can you raise your hand? We can pull you in.
Sorry, my button was stuck for some reason.
Peanut butter.
You there?
Yeah, you need to unmute, Mr. Bridges. Need to unmute. I sent them an unmute message.
Yeah, I did too.
May have fallen asleep. We're so excited. Mr. Bridges, are you there?
If you're on the phone, it's darn.
Oh, here we go. I think he's
Hello?
released. Yes,
You can hear me now?
yes, we
Yes.
can. Name and address, please, for the record.
Jeffrey Bridges, 31 Souther Road. I'm seeking a special permit to construct a cedar board fence bordering my property in the first fairway of the Bass Rocks Golf Club. 56 feet of the 80-foot fence will be between 6 and 8 feet in height. 24 feet will be 6 feet or less. The section exceeding 6 feet in height will consist mainly of a lattice topper. All section of the fence will be lower in height than the previous existing trees and bushes they are replacing. The reason I'm seeking the special permit for higher fence height is added protection from errant golf balls and reducing the noise and dust caused by work vehicles and golf carts on the adjacent golf cart path.
Okay. One thing I know when we've granted variances for fence height, when we get above 6, I know the building department has some little extra requirements as far as structural standards for the fence that you may need to address with your fence company before you pull that permit or move ahead. But I don't think it's anything onerous. Any
Okay.
questions by anyone?
Just to note for the record, there was a letter of support by the golf club.
Yes.
I was going to comment the same. Yep.
Okay, we'll allow some public testimony. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? That's on. Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone in opposition to the fence, to the variance? Anyone in opposition? Once again, I see none. Discussion by the board.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe some of the golfers can get lessons.
Right, it'll be lower than the existing arborvitae, so I think it's a nice replacement.
Yeah, it's good looking fence. Okay, motion to approve.
I'd like to make that motion, that we approve the fence.
Sure, I'll step out of the voting on this one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah, you can make the motion if you're taking Catherine's place on this one. Go ahead.
I move that we allow the fence to be built.
Okay.
You want to know it's a special permit 316. And the request is for a special permit.
Yep, we have a motion to grant a special permit to allow a fence higher than 6 feet. Is that what we're-
Yes, second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Gyllenhaal,
Yes.
Ms. Slickby.
I'm not voting on this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. You've heard our decision is favorable. I remind you to check with the building department on that structural thing, and we will write a decision and get it out to you as soon as we can. I'll write that.
Okay, will do. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Yep.
On our next case, I will not vote, and I'll allow Rob Russell to hear this case. It's the petition of Robert and Alicia Morrissey seeking a special permit under 1.9 to allow construction of second-story addition to existing structure at 4 Grandview Road. I believe they're representing themselves. Mr. or Mrs. Morrissey? Or is Ocean Lewis going to represent?
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Name and address for the record and go ahead.
All right, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Seth Morrissey. I'm architect here in town representing Rob and Alicia Morrissey for a special permit to build a second-story addition on their existing house. I live at 8 Middle Street in Gloucester. The property in question is 4 Grand View. It's located in residential zone 10. We are requesting a special permit to allow a front yard setback of 12.3 feet. Let me share my screen. So the existing structure itself sits 12.3 feet back from the front yard setback. So the new structure, the addition itself will remain in that same footprint. So it will not encroach any further than the already pre-existing non-conforming condition. The existing house itself is just over 1,000 square feet. So that can be quite tight for a family of 4, which is why we are proposing the second story. The new addition will add just over 1,100 square feet for a total of 2,000 square feet to the house for the house. So it's not a massive addition that we're looking to build. It's quite modest. And then I would just like to mention that we did look to do the addition off to the west side of the existing structure that met all the zoning requirements. But after receiving the initial cost estimate, it was deemed unfeasible for my brother and sister-in-law. And I might have given them a heart attack as well. But.
Okay, so.
I can page through the drawings as well. So it's really this front section of the house that is all in the front setback. We are doing a small mudroom off to the left side, but that sits within the setback. But besides that front setback, all other zoning requirements are met.
Yeah, so you're essentially just extending the nonconformity up, correct, on the front?
Correct, yep.
I wanted to ask a question on the front yard setback.
Sure.
On sketch A, you're showing it at the one part at 12.3 and another part 14.3 or 5. It's so small I can't tell. But if you look at A2, the new addition kind of cantilevers over the original house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the 12.3. So the new addition kind of juts out a little bit just over the entry, just to give it some character and also allow for 2 bedrooms to be on the second floor.
So it's over the original foundation line of the first floor.
Yes.
So it does extend into the setback a little bit more than the original house.
Yes.
For that one portion. They do have an existing bay window that does jut out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's minor, but you know, you're supposed to drop the line from the furthest extension to the ground. And I guess you've done that to get the 14 and 12 feet. That was the only question I had on it, whether that increased the intrusion into the setback. You're saying it's the same.
No variance. There's no variance being requested. It's a alter and expand a non-conforming structure. So
okay,
it's not a measured piece of the decision. That's all.
Okay,
If I can clarify.
Yeah.
The bay window, our zoning ordinance does not recognize bay windows as an exception into the 3-foot setback rule. So that bay window is actually, if that's the existing bay window, that bay window is actually the setback line. So they haven't gone past it, so that would be why it would still be a special permit for front yard.
okay, even though it's gone out from the foundation below.
Yeah, we don't go by the foundation. The bay window would be considered an addition, and that
Okay.
would be considered footprint. Hope that
Thank you.
clears that up. You're welcome.
So even if they extended beyond that, though, it would just be extending an existing nonconformity in the front setback, correct?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Any other questions on the application? Then we'll take some public testimony. If Seth, if you could take that down. Since I'm not voting on this case, I just want to say I'm pretty excited to see how well you've done for yourself. I don't know, you remember going to high school and getting in the program, and I'm glad you've done so well.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? There's no one. Will, any discussion by the board or motion on the application?
Just
I think
noting
it's a great
the,
project.
yeah, just noting the petition too, that 7 people, looks like all of them are fairly close proximity to this property. Like the property, like the project.
Yeah, very well noted.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Peter.
I make a motion in the petition of Robert and Alicia Morrissey seeking special permit 1.9 to allow construction of a second floor story addition to the existing structure at 4 Grandview Road. It's a very modest addition for a growing family. I think it is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. It's within the character of the neighborhood, if anything. And it's a very good project, and I move forward and approve.
We have a motion on the special permit to approve. Need a second?
And I would second it with the comment that it is more non-conforming because it is adding new square footage in the existing non-conformity, but as Peter said, it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes, I think it's a nice project, nice plans. They were easy to read. Thank you.
Mr. Nyman,
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a good project, yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
and Mr. Russell.
Yes.
You've heard our decisions favorable. We will create a draft decision, a final decision for your project and get that to you as soon as we possibly can.
I'll write it.
You sure? You got the other?
Yeah, that'll be my 3 I have until I finish them all. Yes, I'll write it. That's fine.
All right. Okay, moving on to our last hearing of the evening. Is the petition of Carl W. L. Decker seeking special permit under 1.9 to allow the expansion and conversion of existing exterior deck and enclosure of space with roof and walls at 95 Pleasant Street. Mr. Decker, I believe, is representing himself. Must be the KWLD.
Oh, okay, I'll try that.
You pull him in? Yes,
Hello.
Hey
name
there.
and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Carl Decker at 95 Pleasant Street here in Gloucester.
Okay, why don't you tell us about your project?
Yeah, I'm proposing to expand my rear deck and enclose it. Let me bring up the plans here.
And I'm gonna follow this.
I'm not sure how to share my screen.
We do have the drawings.
Yeah.
So I'm not encroaching on, it's a non-conforming structure and I'm not planning, it's not going to encroach on any existing setbacks. You can see it's not quite square on the lot. So the rear setback is 8'2", growing to 9'6", and I'm proposing an addition, and the new corner of the house will be at 10'6". And the special permit I need is for the rear variance lot line.
Okay,
But where you're doing the addition itself is all within the setbacks. Right, where you're doing the addition, that meets all its setbacks, correct? Am I correct to think that?
Except for the rear, but it's already non-conforming. I'm not encroaching on what's existing, correct?
Yeah.
you're just enclosing that part that's
So,
there.
yeah, there'll be new footings and reframing the deck, but yeah, it'll all be within that.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant at this point? We'll allow public testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone in opposition to the plan? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one. Discussion by the board?
Are you just enclosing and enlarging a deck on, that's it, right?
Yeah, on the rear side of the house, yeah.
Which is actually the right side of the lot, but yeah, on the rear of his house.
Yeah, it's kind of a funky lot.
Kind of a funky house. It'll make it look better. You have kind of half a
it's
house now.
It was
and you
built in
have a whole house.
1900, but it's 500 square feet. So like a
I
little
think
bit
it's a
extra
really good
space.
project for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a motion if anybody so inclined.
I guess the question is, does it even intensify the nonconformity?
It does.
Well, that is being enclosed.
Because you're going up more building in the setback. All right, I'll do a motion, Mr. Chair. On the petition of Carl Decker seeking a special permit to allow the expansion and conversion of an existing deck and an enclosure of the space with roof and walls at 95 Pleasant Street. So I do think that this proposed addition does intensify the nonconformity, maybe just because you have more building structure in that rear yard setback. I don't think it's substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconformity. I would move approval of the special permit.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the special permit. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yeah.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. You've heard our decision's favorable. We'll put together a decision and get it out to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that's the
Good luck.
one. And Mr. Sanborn, if you'd stamp and sign the drawings for us.
I have, thank you.
Okay, so before we, on here was the vote for the new secretary, but we did that last meeting. Congratulations, Michael. James, you almost, because you weren't here, you were out of the country, you almost got elected. Thank Mike, he stepped up. Anyway,
Mike.
so we meet next week because of the fact we had to continue some hearings. So we meet next Thursday. The continued hearing next Thursday is the one on Rockport Road that we've never actually opened the hearing for. It's been continually pushed, and that we're supposed to be getting some new plans. So that would be our.
Oh, the one out
continued-
by Long Beach, right?
Yes, behind
Okay.
the hotel.
Yeah.
And then your packets are ready for the new hearings. Some of you may have already got them. For next
Yeah.
week, there's, I can't remember, there's 3 or 4 was advertised today in the paper. So it won't be, depending how
Joe,
the
it's-
first one goes, it won't be all night, hopefully. And we
Joe,
will
I
do
think
that.
it's a highlight and it's not Rockport Road, it's
Yeah,
Highlight and Twilight and I can't remember the name. of
it's on a different
Yeah, I
street.
don't know what I did with it.
I got it here.
Rock Terrace.
High Rock
Yeah.
Terrace it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Lenny, it's totally up to you and Robert. I believe you both live on Rockport Road, right?
We
Um,
live in the neighborhood. I'm
And
willing
if you
to,
feel, just to want to remind you both, if you think there's a conflict, you should recuse yourself from that meeting, even though you may not, you may be sitting as alternates, you should still recuse yourself during that time for that meeting, but that's up to you to decide that, if you feel
Yeah.
so.
I will
Just
give it
because
to,
you live in the neighborhood doesn't mean you have a conflict.
Doesn't make it a conflict, right?
Right.
Just want to remind you, so you be
Thank you.
informed.
And so everyone will know our meeting in May, our first meeting on May 12th has been scheduled in person at the Friend Room of the Sawyer Free Library. It's sort of an experiment. We're gonna try it first. And they're gonna try to do a hybrid situation where we'll be having an in-person meeting, but there'll be monitors for people to watch and for us to take their testimony. Be no different than over this where they can just tell us what they think. They'll be allowed to do that if they so choose over this hybrid. Still working out the details, but that's how we're gonna advertise it and the plan. And if it goes well, maybe we can stay back in person, which certainly makes looking at all these drawings easier. With that said, any questions? If not, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Made and seconded, roll call vote to adjourn.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. We are officially adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a
everyone.
good night.
Night. Nice seeing you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Right.
Yep.